Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka.
It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast where every 2 weeks we come together and talk about an anime. I'm laughing at the 2 weeks because it's been more than that for us, but we're back. 2 weeks. That's how often we watch anime and discuss it on this podcast, and then turn that discussion over to you, the listening audience, because we're just three Bakas and we need your help to discuss these animes. Let us know where we're right, where we're wrong, what your theories are, what your thought of the anime that we watched. And to do this, I need the help of my co-host. You don't get to talk yet. First off, with his retro anime that he loves the most, he's the Alpha 5 to my Zordon. It's Jeremy.
There are so many to choose from.
You just tell me how many retro animes you were pulling in. I thought you would have this ready to go.
No, because it's like, which child do I pick, right? Like,
it doesn't look. They're not gonna call you and be like, "Why didn't you pick me, Dad?"
It could be. I mean, Iria comes to mind. Armitage comes to mind. Blue Gender comes to mind. Oh, yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, that works. I think they got a sense of your taste.
But I want to say more.
Give me one more.
One more. Oh, I was bluffing.
Oh, perfect.
Why don't you love me anymore?
I know. I have no other children.
We also have the Ivan Ooze to my Rita Repulsa, Jason, with his favorite new age anime from the past 2 years.
New age?
Roll with
86.
it.
Uh-huh.
Really? I didn't know that.
Which
that
one?
was actually
86. I can't stop thinking about that anime.
Was that what you mean by new age?
Yeah.
Or do you mean
No,
like avant-garde?
I assumed
I just
when he
mean
said
newer.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
newer as in the past 2 years, I'm just like, yeah, that's one of the ones that sticks out. One of the ones I despised was Sunny Boy. I thought that was garbage.
He didn't say Kiss Kniver though.
That's not from the past 2 years.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
And actually, Sunny Boy wasn't that bad. I just like poking at Troy. I'm just hoping I don't hear the name Krillin this time.
Oh.
Oh my goodness! Why would you do this to us?
Structo disc.
Let it go. All right. My name is Troy, the Pink Ranger of the group. The only one who got to fly. Like, if you got to be in a mecha, get the flying one. The air superiority. Clearly the best ranger.
Speaking of, what's your favorite mecha anime?
Hey, there you go.
Robotech always. Does that count? Those are mecha, right? I know they change back and forth, but
No, that's a really good pick.
Yep.
Robotech actually one of the things that got me into anime, because I found the books in my school library. Someone wrote
That is so not fair.
That's really cool. Yeah.
and I didn't know what they were, so I just started reading them, and they started talking about robots turning into planes, and following the adventures of Rick Hunter, and they're probably terrible books, but I'm a kid, I don't know. And then I found out it's a cartoon, and oh look, there's Sailor Moon, and there's Dragon Ball Z. They're all right afterwards on Toonami, and thus I had seen some anime before, and I definitely liked it, but that's when Toonami started for me. That's when I got hooked.
Dude, I learned some stuff. I was doing some research into Robotech, and I didn't even realize that there were 3 different series of original anime that were like crammed together to make
Robotech's not even real, which is funny. Actually, that comes back to the anime we watched, Go Go Loser Ranger, because Power Rangers also not real.
Right.
It's the exact same thing. They took something else from Japan, filmed some American actors doing high school stuff, and then cut to the Japanese footage.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we are discussing Go Go Loser Ranger. That is the anime that we will be discussing. And was picked by Jeremy. So he's going to give you his non-spoiler review of what he thought.
So it's my fault, is what you're saying.
No, that depends on your review, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the worst anime. It's okay, but it has some serious problems with tonal contradiction and flow. The character, especially, I wanted to say characters, but none of them really matter as much as the main character. And that main character, he doesn't really know what he wants. And in some ways I like that, but in other ways I find it so contradicting and frustrating. I just need more consistency. Same thing with like the rules and laws that the anime sets for itself, even about like mechanical things, how things behave. It's like somebody had a really cool idea, and I genuinely think this is an awesome idea, but the execution falls a bit flat.
Are we going to talk about battery life?
Yeah, battery life is one of the issues. Yes.
Do it.
Yes.
All right, Jason, your thoughts.
It was fine. Like, I'm right on the verge of I didn't like it, mainly because I just can't stand most of the characters. Also, just like Jeremy said, this has a really tough time with its identity. It's like it doesn't know what it wants to be. I love the concept, however. I love the idea that we've got this charade, and I guess without getting the spoilers, I really like what's happening with the bad guys, and then like, the whole rebelling against that. But man, the execution was just something to left to be desired. So I didn't end up rooting for anybody. And yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to flesh out my feelings during this podcast.
Right? So much I want to say.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat with these guys. I'll be honest. I went on a roller coaster. There were times I'm like, this is bad. This is a bad thing. And then I was like, hey, there's a good thing. A lot of times I'd be like, oh, so we're just doing this anime, and the anime would say to me, yes, but also no. and then they would twist, and I was interested in the twist. I do think there's a lot of issues in the execution. I think in the end I come out on a thumbs up side of it. But I can also say I'm probably not planning to watch the second season. I'll probably just kind of check in with it. But yeah, in the end, I enjoyed it. And if you're a big fan of Power Rangers and you're wanting the boys version of it without all the grotesque, gross stuff, this is the anime for you. That it's a really cool concept that they have here, hands down.
I should probably mention that it is important that I'm kind of, even though with all of that, I can't. It keeps coming into my mind. So there's something there that is intriguing me that I just haven't quite figured out what it is yet. So I'm not quite a thumbs up, but I'm not 100% thumbs down either.
All right, your guys' thoughts on the opening and closing.
Opening's fantastic. I actually really enjoyed it. The animation's great. The music's good. I like the symbolism of the puppetry. And the ED was fun. I like the dance routine. It was pretty good. And again, the music was decent. So might be just like Jeremy, might be the favorite part of the anime.
Right? Isn't it? OP was best part of this anime, hands down. It does such a good job giving you the sense of what this character is going through and giving you a lot of hints. One thing that's kind of funny is how it gives you images of all these other characters, and they do play a role in this season, but I don't know that I didn't care about them by the end of it. Like, I was like, why did you put them in the OP? They're not even important. But it does some interesting things where it's like you can see as he's running around through the labyrinth of stairs that in all of the glass shards, there's reflections of each of those people. So it makes me wonder, like, what's going to happen in later seasons as this character impersonates. That's one of his abilities, is to impersonate. And so who will he impersonate and how much? That one of the few things that this anime has done to intrigue me about season 2 is that part of it from the OP.
See, when I first watched OP, I agreed it was about impersonation, and then when I further got into it, I thought they're all similar, and he finds himself seeing
Bonds.
himself in them. Yeah,
I could see that.
Yeah, both songs are great. I agree with everything these guys said. I really the visual storytelling in that opening is awesome. Sometimes I even remember watching it and being like, I feel like you're lying to me now.
Yeah.
I thought this is what it was going to be, but I feel like we've gotten away from it. And now, am I ever going to get to see the Red Ranger again? And he's so featured here. And then the closing with what I'm taking as a dance contest. And
they're performing, right?
Yeah.
That's
well, you see the fighters practicing, and then
Yeah.
everyone's performing on the. So I'm taking it as a competition, maybe just a different way of saying what they're doing. But it was fun.
Yeah, I think it's like they've coerced the fighters into a dance routine so that everybody can enjoy watching it. So you have to be in sync or you die.
I like that.
Oh, about the ED, one thing that's really funny, and I didn't actually catch this till I rewatched it later. There's at the very end, the fighters, one of them is an overweight guy, and he stumbles like as they're trying to strike their pose at the very end. He like stumbles and then catches his footing. So they have a really nice attention to detail in their OP and ED.
All right. Before we go to our spoiler section, just so you know what our next anime is, it's my pick, so put all angry comments towards me. I have chosen Suicide Squad Isekai.
Oh, God.
For 2 reasons. I didn't remember it was my pick till 20 minutes ago. Yeah, it's done, and because it's only 10 episodes long. So while the rest of the anime of the season are still wrapping up, this one's ready to go. I've seen some clips that look interesting, some fight scenes that look interesting. I've heard bad things, so maybe it's time for another drunk podcast. Yeah. We'll find out. We might be hate watching it, but if nothing else, for the very concept that they tried this experiment, which I think is a terrible idea, if I'm being honest. I heard about this and I'm like, that's a terrible idea, and I hate Isekai. But let's see what they did. I gotta know. I'm curious.
Well, there's a Wolverine anime. There's a Ninja Batman or something anime.
Batman is supposed to be really good.
Yeah, so there's got to be a successful way to do it. And to be honest, I wanted to see it. I just don't think I ever would have if it wasn't.
Yeah.
An anime.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like I'm almost picking it like
podcast.
I think it'll give us lots to talk about too.
Yeah.
To see a Western IP done in an anime, there's a lot to talk about, I think, if nothing else. So I'm okay with picking it, despite the review scores of my anime list not being fantastic. I'm probably, I was telling these guys, I'm probably doing the Rick and Morty anime on this podcast at some point, just because I think it's insane that they're doing it.
Oh heck, I'd watch that.
It's not. I watched the first episode. It's not Rick and Morty. It's not Rick and Morty.
No.
It's. Watch the first episode. Wait.
Okay.
Just do the first episode. Let me know what you think. But I definitely want to get on the podcast. I think it'll. Doesn't matter. We need to move on. Go Loser Ranger. That's what we're here to talk about. It is spoiler time. We're going to be talking about spoilers about Go Loser Ranger.
And not Krillin.
God.
You opened
Troy, let it go.
You should have done Yamcha if you're gonna keep beating this dead horse. Yeah, so please, if you haven't seen Go Loser Ranger and you're wanting to save yourself from spoilers, we are about to discuss characters, plots, theories. It announced the season 2 at the end, so there's stuff we don't know coming up, but we're gonna go into everything that we know. All right, so we start in modern day Tokyo, and if you've seen a Power Rangers, you kind of know the basic concept of this world. Alien monsters came to this planet, they attacked, Now every Sunday, they jump into an arena with they're called the Dragon Force, Divine Dragon Rangers.
Dragon Keepers.
Dragon Keeper, but they're also Rangers. So the Keepers are the five guys, but the Rangers are the organization.
Right.
So they are both Rangers and Keepers.
Yep.
Dragon Force, Ranger Keepers. Keeper Rangers? Doesn't matter.
They're probably, it's because they're the keepers of the relics or those artifacts.
Yeah. There's definitely some theorizing to do with those artifacts and the dragons and all that, but we'll get there.
And why they all look like body parts, like skeletons and muscle fiber.
Yeah. But just a little bit of a glimpse ahead of what we're going to find out in this episode. It's all fake. These Rangers have defeated the boss monsters of this alien attack force, but they left the minions alive, the fighters, as they're called, who can shapeshift. And they force these fighters to come down every Sunday.
And they're immortal.
Yes, they are immortal. So they make one of them shapeshift into a new boss monster for them to fight, which they do with basically fake weapons. They don't use the actual artifacts that they won the war with. And they fight these guys, and then they can kill them, and they just go back to their spaceship in the sky, and then they do it again next weekend. And we get this cool cutscene of the fighters trying to plan the monster, which I loved as a great call out to actual Power Rangers and how like stupid some of the monster of the week would always be. Like, oh, we gotta think of something. What is it gonna be? That's a lion that turns into a truck. Like, it's so dumb. But it that's straight to what Power Rangers used to do. So there's definitely, like I said, the concept here is really solid. Now let's talk about D, because we meet a young man who's at the arena, and some recruiters come up to him, and he's all grumpy about stuff. And we find out this is one of the fighters, and he's good at shapeshifting into humans. So he comes down and spies and gets all grumpy. He's our main character. We definitely have conflicting thoughts on him from what I've been able to tell. Your guys' thoughts on Fighter D, so I can tell you why you're wrong.
Jeremy, go first, because I have a list.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I have an issue with for him is that he is a contradiction. He is dumb, as these fighters all are, which kind of makes sense, right? Because it's their nature is to fight, to throw themselves in the way, to be destroyed just so that the boss monsters would be able to win, right? So I understand that. So when he throws himself into battles that he can't win, I'm okay with that. That works. That's his nature. But then he spends the majority of the anime infiltrating, being level-headed, coming up with stories and ways to trick people into believing that he's a human, holding back his desire to throw himself into fights, except for the final battle in which he throws himself into a battle for no reason. Like, he doesn't have to fight Blue in the last battle. He goes back to fight Blue. He could take on another identity or do something else. He could have killed one of the other students. He could have done something, taken up the body of the one that he thought was dead, But to throw himself into that battle and think he would win is ridiculous. And then the other inconsistency about him is his own ability to withstand damage and to actually succeed in fighting. So we see a shot where he's charging early on at the Rangers in the arena. And it looks cool because he like leaps up and shoots over to the side and then dives around and swooshes over. And he's like, hey, I'm coming for you. And then it jumps back to what's really happening. And he's literally just running towards them like a person running slowly towards them. And they even comment on it like, he's coming over here. He's running over here. So that tells us right there that how cool we're seeing him look is not what he's really capable of. That's all in his head. What he's actually doing is, as he said, we are weaker than and less sturdy than the surface dwellers. He wasn't talking about the keepers or the rangers. He was talking about the surface dwellers.
Regular humans, yeah.
Regular human beings. He gets his head lopped off by a steak knife just casually swiped at him. He is incredibly weak and delicate. It's like he's made of porcelain. And there's circumstances in the last battle where he has to run, and another one of his kind is within like the radius of an explosion of this particular attack, and she loses her arms and can't generate them back for the rest of the show. And so he's terrified of these things and he's running from them, but then he comes right back into this fight with the guy and he's like dodging and weaving them and they're detonating all around him and he's fine. It's just when they need him to do cool actiony things for the scene, he does. When they need him to be level-headed and incognito and believable, he does. When they need him to be stupid and jump into combat, he does. He isn't a person. He is whatever they need him to be for the story to continue. And to try and make the best that they can out of the idea that they have, but not really have value in him as a character in that. The idea is more important.
This is where this is the linchpin of the anime, is because we've got this technically oppressed people, if you will, up in this fortress, slaving away, because it looks like there's no other reciprocation for coming down and performing this charade every other week besides living. Like, it's either you come down and perform the charade, or we're going to come and wipe you guys out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is a story that I think would resonate with a lot of people as far as just like understanding and empathizing. But then he comes down, he's like, I want to get revenge on the keepers. Okay, great. We can empathize with that. I can get on board with that. Right. All right. And I want world domination. Okay. That's why you came to begin with. Now I don't like you. Like, there's a scene where, like, really later on that, you know, Blue Keeper is basically torturing one of the fighters. And I had a hard time finding that being bad.
Yeah.
Because I was just like,
Same.
well, this is a monster that wants to murder people.
Mm-hmm.
And getting the information for the stronger monster, yeah, I probably would have done the same thing. Maybe not as, you know, barbarically, but like, I have a really tough time rooting for this main character, not only because of the contradictions, but also because of his motivations. Like, and also there's a really great scene where they go, hey, yeah, I know, right?
No, the purring's being picked up, just so you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm
What a Krillin moment.
let it go, Troy. There's a scene of like a what if scenario if he were to, you know, allow world domination of his kind, and it's terrible, right? But then it doesn't dissuade him from, like, we see a little bit of growth, like that whole humanizing him and wanting to root for him, but then they throw it all away. And I just have a lot of problems with this character because he doesn't, I don't want to root for him. I don't like the corruption angle's cool, right? Like, I like the idea that these keepers are corrupt individuals. They're doing it for their own gain, and they're the oppressors, right? But on the other hand, they are alien monsters out to kill people. So
Yeah.
it's rough.
So when I was going through this anime, I felt the exact same thing. 100% was like, wow, that is asking a lot of your audience to say, hey, this protagonist who wants the world domination, who is an evil monster, is your protagonist. This is an anime with no good guys. There's not a good guy. I mean, there's probably some good people. I think we see some side characters.
Hibiki, maybe?
Yeah,
but
maybe.
But while Hibiki wants to fix the corrupted regime, he's still helping that corrupted regime, trying to fix it from the inside, but also not making much of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So does that make Hibiki a good guy? But that's...
Plus, we don't know everything about Hibiki. Like, it never was explained to us why he's got a fighter girl in his closet. So, like, I want to know more about this character, too, before I can really decide whether he's a good guy.
And we'll come to Hibiki. But yeah, like I said, I felt exactly what you're feeling. I'm like, wow, I don't. There's especially a few episodes. I'm like, I don't know if I care. As it got to the end, he's clearly going through that growth. I don't feel it was thrown away. It's just not a full change.
Mm-hmm.
He, for the first time ever, you also have to remember this guy is 5 years old, 7 years old,
13 years old.
13 years old. He's 13 years old. He knows nothing but he was, hey, we created you to be sacrifices for ourselves, and has never questioned that ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so and then all that was taken away from him, and all he knows is he wants to get that back. And then as he's getting to know people and meeting the humans that he wants world domination over, he's now fantasizing like, okay, some of them are okay though, and I'll have them be my friends in my world domination.
They're special.
They're special.
That was cute.
That was fascinating to me because, again, it's a step where I think he's going. I don't think he's fully like, oh, I think I was a bad guy. Like, he has a whole worldview he has to change, and I think it's very fair. Of the worldview he has based on the circumstances they set up for him. It's very realistic. I think it's interesting to have a character who's both a villain facing off against villains. And the most fascinating thing about D is he doesn't really matter. In all this story, he's not a major player. He's not the savior of the world. Everyone else's schemes just keep using him. He is a pawn to everyone else. So we get to see all this different scheming, all these different groups and factions that are, there's a boss monster that still exists out there that isn't coming back for them and helping them. He's out there doing his own thing, but then willing to sacrifice them as needed. There's clearly some other organization that doesn't like the Rangers here on Earth that I think has to do with what the dragons were before all this started. And then there's the Rangers themselves. Every single one is using, and D's just in the middle, an idiot jumping along. I also took a lot of his actions as just a guy. His instinct is survive, and then it keeps being overridden by this. But I'm supposed to do something. I'm supposed to get the world domination. I'm supposed to defeat the Rangers. I have a purpose I was created for. I need to do my purpose. But like all the fighters that didn't leave after this enslavement that came upon them, his first instinct is to run away. He runs away so much in this anime where there's like a fight about to start and he's like, no, actually I'm leaving, or I'm gonna go hide. And then they start playing with that of, then he actually comes back. I found him interesting by the end, although I agree I had frustrations along the way. I just think they earned, or at least fixed, a lot of the issues that I had, and that they took those steps towards character growth I want to see. I think eventually he will become the hero of the story, but I kept thinking like, man, do I root for the guy who wants world domination? That's a crazy ask. And then the anime goes, okay, but what if he realized world domination was bad? And we see it through XX as well, that these poor fighters have their worldviews forced upon them and have to break away from that. Something I can empathize with, and had at times in my past had to do. It's a thing. I liked him. I did.
You make some interesting points, some good points. I have an issue with the fighters, especially like you mentioned XX. Same thing for her, where it's like, if she's really that, if survival is their number one driving force, then revenge wouldn't be putting them into situations like this. Like, there's no way that they can survive. They literally just went into the boss's realm, both of them. And it is the stupidest possible place if survival is important to them. So I think it's flipped around. I think that they believe that the most important thing is their directive. In which case, it's just, it's very clumsy is what I'm seeing.
I think XX is the opposite. I think she is all about the directive.
But then she's not, because she's sad when the humans actually get killed. even though she tried to kill the human,
Right.
she's then sad.
They're literally manufactured beings who are learning empathy and humanity as they go along. Like
Yeah.
she's like, hey, I'm a evil minion here to do evil things, and then this maintenance worker is like, hey, I'm not gonna kill you. We don't need to fight. I'm not like that. And then suddenly he dies, but this is my purpose, is to serve this guy. Am I supposed to do something about that? How am I supposed to feel?
But why is this the pivotal moment where she's changing? Like right here is the window for both of these characters to go through this. It just seems like too much for me. I would love to see that spread out a little more. We've got a span of 13 years that she's been roaming the surface.
I would agree. Clumsy storytelling is on display here, very much so.
Yeah.
I think the other issue is that we get so little backstory of the boss monsters. And also another issue is freaking cat. The other issue is like, okay, we've got this fortress that comes out of nowhere. Does that mean this is the only fortress in existence and these boss monsters?
Meow.
These boss monsters are the only ones of their kind? Like, is there a planet full of these boss monsters? Are more boss monsters coming?
Like, Meowby, but I mean, you gotta really.
Possibly.
Right.
I think there's a lot more lore to be revealed. I think there's a lot of stuff we don't know. I think, like, again, what's going on with the dragons is huge.
But the problem is that without that backstory, without at least some sort of taste of it, I'm having a really tough time empathizing with these beings that were created to be evil and, minions for the boss monsters.
Do you have to empathize with the main character? I would agree, yes, but I don't think
if I want to care what he cares about, yeah.
I was okay once he started trying to the moment that he said some of them are special and had that dream about them coming up and eating in his restaurant. That was the moment where I was like, okay, he's learning, he's getting it. So I agree with that. I was okay with wanting to see more about him and where his story goes, because I do want to see that change. But it's still frustrated me because then immediately after that he goes and he hasn't become a better fighter. He hasn't become more durable. Nothing has changed about him yet. Now he goes and takes on Blue Keeper and lasts more than half a second. Like, I don't get it.
He was injured.
Yeah, he was. It's true. But
just like Kylo Ren, he was injured, so
Right.
You're welcome, Troy.
Troy is injured.
Oh,
now.
By the way, speaking of Star Wars, I love the fact that we both picked these shirts. So I've got
Baby Yoda.
I got the old one. You got the young guy.
Oh, yeah. Yoda in all of his life.
They're not the same character.
Yeah. Well, they're the same race, so it's the same. I'm racist against Yoda's character.
Oh my gosh.
There's only two. That's not so bad, right? Like,
yeah.
If you're racist, pick a very small race.
That's right.
I should probably edit that.
How to make racism okay.
All right. Like I mentioned, though, Fighter D in a human form is approached by two recruiters, and I was like, okay, random characters, I don't have time for you. I'm not gonna write your name, and I wish I did, but I did eventually. I had to go back. These are major characters. So first off, let's do Hibiki first. The Hibiki Sakurama, the deuteragonist, the secondary protagonist.
I don't understand this character.
For a little while.
He's got this weird sense of morality and justice that has to do with like getting along. They have this whole backstory for him where his parents are basically manipulating him, but like he sees a boss monster murder his parents and their entire religion, and he's like, we should talk to them. Okay, great. And then also later it's like, I want to play a trick so I can get you into the thing. Here, I'm going to cut off my own hand. This is just this anime makes choices. I could, yeah. Anyways, and then we just never see him again.
Yes, we do.
Is that him with the burned face at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, he was
Ah.
recognizable, and he dyed his hair black, I think.
No, it was still pink. Or
Was it really? I
orange.
thought it was black.
Orange.
It was still orange. Yeah, he just had the scarred face. I actually, because of the scarred face, I was like, oh, it's not him. I'm like, oh no, he was shot in the face. He did get burnt there.
He was shot in the face.
I don't know.
Over the side of the cliff.
Yeah, he got whacked in the face. He was wearing a mask, but it we'll get there. But yeah, by the way, that whole scene was also very clumsy. I was like,
oh my god, yes.
This was hard to follow, hard to note about it, but we'll get to it. Yeah, yep. He's a burnt face, one-armed man.
Yeah, don't like him. Could have gone without him.
Clearly can't, for sure.
Yeah, he's kind of vital. I found him interesting just because when I see somebody that's that illogical, I want to know more about why. And I'm curious because to me it feels like there's an interesting story behind that. Now, judging by the rest of the anime, there probably isn't an interesting story behind it. He's probably just that way because he needs to be that way. And that's probably a really harsh thing for me to say, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in there being a deep, complex reason for his behavior other than the one that was presented on the screen. So I'm kind of in Jason's boat that way, but he's only there for such a short time. And the rest of the time we just really are presented with Dee's impression of him, and not even a really good impression because he drops his values almost instantly and starts like having his own values. He's just a face worn by him throughout the rest of the anime.
Man, I don't want to be the defender of this anime. I will say for the most part, I didn't like him. I was confused in the OP in the first couple episodes why his face kept showing up, and I'm like, are we gonna become this guy? And then we did. Yeah. However, I found his backstory intriguing, and in my own headcanon, I found a link between his backstory and why he would want to help the fighters. Just because, again, his parents were like, hey, the Dragon Keepers are bad, the Dragon Keepers are bad, the Dragon Keepers are bad, and then a boss monster kills everybody, and the Dragon Keepers save him. He liked the Dragon Keepers too. So I think he has this, hey, just because someone tells me someone is bad, I'm not going to accept that they're bad until they've proven they're bad. And
it's like killing his parents and everybody.
It depends if you separate the boss monsters and the fighters as
that's true.
Two different types of people.
That's true.
He knows that the Sunday Arena Games battles are a charade. Charade? Fake.
It's if you're British.
It's made up.
Yeah, he knows they're fake, so he knows like they're coming down willingly and doing this and getting killed over and over.
So they can be negotiated with.
Again, why does he have one trapped in his closet? But
especially a cute one. There's got to be something wrong with him.
It is explained that this isn't like a random thing he's done. This is who he's been for a while now. He recognizes the corruption in the Ranger Force and wants to change it. I was okay with his decisions. The hand cutting offs did seem extremely drastic, extremely fast. Not like, hey, let's try 2-3 other plans before we come back to this one. Yeah.
Also, like, according to the morals that his dad instilled in him, he should be upset at the Keepers for saving him.
Yeah, if he really believed it, what his dad said.
But his dad was wrong. That's what that taught him. He was literally raised by a ranger, remember, after that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which the time doesn't make sense for that ranger either. It does not make sense.
Yeah, the Blue Ranger timeline feels a little, again, clumsy. Clumsy is a good word for this anime.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Awesome. There's no way Blue Ranger died normally. I have a feeling. We'll get to that. Who we'll talk about. Let's talk about the other person Yumiko Suzukiri. This one I think they like. I don't think I have to defend anything. You guys, why do you like Suzukiri?
We like the horrible backstabbing girl.
Right. She's manipulative. She's obviously a sociopath, and she's also just kind of a both side. Like, she is the Starscream of this anime. She's I love that she's got her replica divine artifact is something that can stop time.
TV remote control that stops time.
Right.
Oh, it's so good.
And I love that she's constantly talking to the boss monster, being like, "Yeah, I can help you out." And also she susses out D just like that, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I love her just ability to manipulate a situation from afar. She seems like the primary protagonist of this show, and I love it because she's so deep into the Ranger universe. So, yeah, I actually enjoyed whenever she was on screen.
Yeah. She's like second to the yellow. She could be yellow keeper if anything happens to him. Now, one of the things that I noticed that I'm really suspicious about is everybody's eyes. I wonder how many of them actually mean something, because she has like black eyes, just no pupil, no, it's just
Dow's eyes.
Yeah, she's got those scary eyes. And some of the other characters have really interesting eyes that are like animalistic, or the starburst.
Hibiki, and with the starburst one is.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like it's family, it's lineage related, because Hibiki and his sister both have the same eyes. I kind of wonder if not everybody is completely human. I just kind of, I don't know, it's a suspicion I have. But yeah, I like this character because she is consistent. She knows exactly what she wants. She's smart enough to get it. She's always portrayed as, pulling the strings behind the scenes. She is that sociopathic character that uses others like pawns. There's one scene where I was a little bit disappointed because she exposed herself too easily. It was in the near the end when she's having a meal with the Red Junior, and she smiles when they're talking about Blue dying, right? And come on, if he didn't know, now he does. Like, you don't show that there's any kind of positive reaction to that. So I was a little disappointed with that. But it was only one scene, which,
And she's blackmailing him.
And she is blackmailing him, yeah. So maybe she even already knew that he had taken that device from her room. And so maybe she wasn't exposing anything. Maybe she knew that he knew, or was suspicious of her anyway. But yeah, I found her to be very interesting. I want to see what she's going to do next, more than what Dee's going to do next.
It's me.
It's you.
I like her. I think she's one of the most interesting characters. Every time she's on screen, I'm fascinated by every action, every word. She lies through her teeth, and anime never tells you she's lying, and you still know she's lying. When Dee asks her, "Why are you helping us?" and she gives this like vague answer of, "I like underdogs and I just want to help." Like, oh, that is not true. That is so BS. And good job, anime, for not taking the time to tell me it's BS, but just delivering it in a way that I can figure that out. So yeah, she's a great character. I am super interested in her. I think her lore is super important. Everything about her is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with everything you guys said. All right. Dee does have to go join the battle, though. This is the same way the tiger turns into a truck. And they're not even allowed to attack the keepers. They have to go attack the crowd so that the cadets and rangers can defend the crowd and beat them up. And this is really where we get our first big glimpse of the Rangers. We can talk about any of the ones you want to talk about, but I want to start with Red. Red, to me, is the heart and soul of this anime. I think he's so important, but we can talk about anyone's after it. But what do you guys think about Red Dragon Keeper, whose name is Sosei?
So Red is interesting. At first I kind of wanted to think of him as the boys, whatever that guy's name is that leads the
Homelander.
superheroes. Homelander. Yeah, I wanted to think
Homelander.
of him, and he kind of is a little bit like Homelander, but he's got more grace and more sanity than Homelander. But he's more of a sociopath than Suzukiri, because he when he finds out Blue's dead, he's upset because Blue was the perfect height to make a really nice final pose as a group. Like, that's why he's upset. So, you know, yeah, he's an interesting character. He's always saying, for justice, and we'll see if your strength is as strong as my justice. So you definitely get those Homelander vibes, but honestly, yeah, he's Homelander, but a little bit better put together. That's all I get from him.
I guess now's as good as time as any. There's a really big problem with the power scaling in this anime. And the reason I say it is because the keepers, and it seems the higher up in the organization of the Rangers that you go, the more superhuman you become. And I'm gonna shoot that cat. No, I would never do that.
Nerf.
Admit to it.
Nerf. Spray bottle.
Right? I'm about to.
Yeah.
No, there seems to be a really big discrepancy in the strength of humans. And what I mean by that is we get plenty of opportunities to see even the cadets in the white, the
Colorless
recruits.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one dude punches one of the top cadets, top third, I guess, and he goes flying into a vehicle, and the vehicle concaves. Like, there's multiple like concrete breaking, explosions happening, taking, and also it's like, are these dragging gadgets, are they lethal or are they not?
Yes.
Who knows?
I agree 100%. I hate those things.
Right. So when it comes to,
You mean the replicas?
No, just the regular little
just
sword gun
regular
thing.
dragon gadgets.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about when they overpower them. Like, I'm talking about just normal blade or normal gun. Like, are they lethal? Are they not? I don't know. But the other problem is like, we get the scene with Red Keeper, like, and I get the keepers, right? They've got a divine artifacts. They get the suit from the artifacts, apparently. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
The artifact lets them transform in and out of it.
Yeah,
right.
Red said he had to wear his costume one when he lost his sword.
Right. And so, like, I get that part. Like, they get the superpowers from the artifacts. And I would get that the next level down, who have the replica artifacts, sure, they get some superpowers. But it's like, why is everyone within the Ranger organization, why do they get it from the dragon gadgets? Like, what's making these guys so durable?
Regular people, yeah.
And then the other thing is, like, yeah, we get a very Homelander vibe. I mean, it seems Red Keeper just straight up murders somebody and then goes back to his meeting, like,
twice, yeah.
Right. So I love that unhinged part, and I love him as a bad guy. And I wish they would have leaned into that more, because that's who we're trying to get revenge on, from multiple people within the organization and not just D. And if we had, like, started to form some sort of shadow organization that was uprising throughout the Ranger ranks to get it Red, I think that would have been a really cool. And we didn't get that. We just get all these disparate idiots trying to go about it their own way and getting wrecked. So
it did seem like there was supposed to be a meeting that Pink wanted to have, and it was going to include, like, blue and yellow, I think, maybe green, and it was about Red. So I kind of wonder if that's not going on, and they just are choosing not to make that the focus, which I would have loved for that to have been the focus. But if they did do that, I think it would have been even more like the boys, because he's probably strong enough to decimate the other Rangers, since he's the boss elimination specialist, and they're not.
Offensive.
Yeah.
I honestly think that's where we're going at some point. Well, the reason I picked Red, other than him playing such a central role in the story, is the Rangers are corrupt. That's a big plot of the season. But it seems to me as we explore them, the main reason is because Red Ranger is so evil. He is a psychopathic, murderous man, and I very much agree. He's very much almost a carbon copy of Homelander, except for he is from the start the head of this organization. He is controlling everything, and so all this horribleness that's happening is really stemming from him. And I think, like, we see Blue Keeper isn't horrible, overly violent, and allowed to be so under Red, and then finally has a someone who comes under him and is like, hey, we need to curb your worst tendencies and stuff. But I think it really just rots from the top down, and I think that's really interesting, and that now we have these new junior cadets who are recognizing that the Rangers are corrupted and are wanting to make changes. Like Kai is a guy who's like, yeah, the Rangers are wrong and bad, and I need to stop them for my own personal reasons. And it creates a really interesting world where the main power, because it's evil, literally can't sustain itself. It's killing itself from the inside because, hey, I've got spies, I've got traitors. Well, that's because you're so bad that it spawns that kind of stuff. That's why I said D doesn't really matter. This program is on its death legs, and no one seems to realize it. It has traitors throughout. And D's just this pawn that's moving around within it, but he's a catalyst, but he's not the main force that was killing it. This stuff was already going to happen, and now D's going on this personal journey to figure out where he fits in all of it, and a pawn between all these different groups. Even just that final scene you guys talked about, Suzukiri and the third rank Red Junior, just shows that he didn't run to his boss and say, hey, I found a traitor. He said, how am I going to benefit from this? The second, the first Junior, I want Red to lose and go away so I can become Red. And like, as soon as his opportunity, he jumped on it and then got murdered for it. The whole thing is rotten to the core, and that's a fascinating playground to put your story in.
I think there was a little bit of a missed opportunity, however, because in most Ranger stories or Ranger anime or live action, there's always a like overarching leader, whether it be the big head or the old guy that's
Sorbonne.
Like, yeah, some sort of
Zordon.
And we don't have that here. We don't have some
I wonder
sort of
if that's
over.
the
It is
dragon.
Draggy-kun.
Yeah, I wonder if it's dragon.
I have a feeling Draggy-kun is also oppressed, and that his brethren have been murdered for the creation of divine artifacts.
See, I mean, I'm 50% there and 50% Doka Magica cat guy. Like, actually super evil and has created this whole situation, and now Red is again corrupted everything and made it just start rotting from the inside.
I thought he might be one of the monsters, like the boss monsters.
Yeah, that too. Like, he could be a monster. But you're right, because the weapons are clearly like bone and tendon, and so what did they do to get these? I'll just say it's interesting. Again, the storytelling is very clumsy, but the ideas here are fun to explore.
Yeah.
Also, oh gosh. Okay, sorry. I'm going down my list of things that irritate me. As far as lore goes, like they don't call them boss monsters. The boss monsters call themselves bosses. What? How unimaginative do you have to be in your storytelling that your main group of guys are fighters, but then the next level are bosses? It's like, for one, why would this alien race of super powerful beings have the concept of a boss, for one? And for 2, why would you call your minions just fighters? I know we're doing a whole parody on Ranger shows or whatever, but I don't know.
I was okay with it just because of the parody nature. I mean, I remember watching some of the Power Rangers, at least when I was a kid, and it really was silly. And so to have something silly like that, I was okay with. The idea of like whether they have the concept of boss, I'm sure they do, because there's the hierarchy of leadership. The word itself maybe is just like the best way to translate it. But now that you mention it, I do kind of wonder why they speak the language, the same language that humans speak.
What if, and this is a big what if those are all the right questions?
Yeah, and we'll find out why they were able to be defeated in like 3 months.
Yeah, what if these aren't alien invaders, but something created by the dragons or Dragon Force or something like that, where it's like, call them boss monsters, and then the boss monsters will call those fighters.
Maybe it's all red.
One huge con on the like government of Japan, so they can get funding.
I could see that. Well, so that red could. I bet it comes from the Dragon Keepers themselves. Then, if that's that would make sense. Because Red clearly he just wants the glamour. He wants the
he won't fight till the
status.
Camera shows
cameras
up, right?
are on it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. And maybe not. You know, maybe they are just doing a parody. You know, Rita Repulsa climbed out of a jar.
Yeah, she did.
Is Rita Repulsa the villain of the original? What is it? Is it Sentai Warriors?
I don't know if she's of the original.
I thought she was in Power Rangers, wasn't she?
She is, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
the American version.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Japanese original series. Is her footage Japanese footage, or is it that's dubbed, or did they like, okay, we need to like create our own villain? Ivan Ooze is American only. I know that. that whole movie was just ours. Okay, I'll keep going while Jeremy Googles.
Yes.
We have the technology.
The battle happens. We see the flashback of the fighters trying to plan their monster, which I thought was funny. In this scene, though, when we're introduced to characters, this anime does something I love. It puts their name in front of the character. A lot of anime does this. I love it when I'm taking notes. Okay, I got the proper spelling. Thank you. But in this shot, when we see Fighter D, he has to push away his own name. And acknowledges that like this has happened. He breaks the fourth wall. And then it happens again in the final episode, but nowhere in between. God, it's a pet peeve of mine. You either break the fourth wall or you don't. You either make it a thing you're going to do constantly or leave it intact. You can't just touch it once or twice.
Yep.
That's what she said.
Got him.
So Rita Repulsa was in the original Japanese.
Okay.
Yep.
So they dubbed her.
They just dubbed her. Yep. But I agree, and it's funny that they keep doing that with the fighters and the headlines. I think they do it with the humans once too, where a human like flicks their name out of the way. So it's a constant thing with introductions. Those introductions are real in-world things, which almost makes it seem like we are behind the camera in their world, and it's not breaking the fourth wall into our world, but we're actually characters in their world watching footage.
No, because the cameras wouldn't go into the spaceship. That's a secret.
They could, if it's all a con.
Okay,
Here we go.
That's fine. So in the battle, it's time for the fighters and the boss monster to lose, and D doesn't lose with the fake weapon they're hit with. He decides, I'm staying. I'm actually going to fight these guys. Starts running towards them. Jeremy already described the scene, and then they kill him for real, which just dissolves him into dust, and he blows away. Then he goes to the roof back in human form and is found by Suzukiri, and he just agrees, I'm going to enlist in the cadets for the program that they were trying to recruit him for.
Ranger program.
Yep. So that way he can get close to the keepers and kill them once and for all. And then we see him jogging with a bunch of other people, and he finds out the keepers don't even live here. They all have their own special bases elsewhere. So the keepers go to the spaceship. They're mad about what Dee did, but the other fighters are like, well, he hasn't been back. We don't know what happened. And they're like, well, if you see him, you have to turn him over to us. Plus, we're now going to leave 2 guards here at all times to monitor you and your behavior. Dee comes across Hibiki and Suzukiri, and they take him out for lunch and they tell him all about the Rangers, which is really just kind of world building for us, giving us some background into them. It's now basically become this worldwide police force, and they help people as well as the keepers do the Sunday battles. Suzukiri says she has to go deliver a letter to Red Keeper and ask Hibiki if he wants to go. He says no. And then after they leave, Dee turns himself into Hibiki and then catches up with Suzukiri and says, hey, I actually changed my mind. I wanted to go. So they go to Red Keeper's fortress compound, which looks
Tower
like
of Power.
It's got like it's like a lot of mesh fences and gears for no reason. Yeah, weird aesthetic. A guy in clown paint, because apparently that's a look.
Somebody liked Hunter x Hunter.
It's in anime way too much. Like Hunter x Hunter,
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yep.
Free pass.
For sure.
Why do so many people wear clown makeup in anime?
I don't know.
There's another trope that's even worse that I can't wait to get to. Anyway, this guy's like, hey, I'm Red Keeper. Give me the letter. And Dee is like, what do I do? But Suzukiri covers for him. And they give the letter to this guy. His name is Tokita. He's the guy we were talking about earlier who knows about Suzukiri. Anyway, give him the letter. As they're leaving, though, they come across Sosei Akabane, the real Red Keeper. And Dee manages to tell him, great work, good job, big fan of yours. Suzukiri pulls him out and is like, man, you almost blew it there, and then cuts his head off, revealing that she knows he's a fighter. His head comes right back again. They're super immortal. And then she's like, hey, I want to work with you. We can work together to take down the Rangers. But then Hibiki shows up, and he's like, hey, a monster has escaped. And so Dee goes to see, and it's Fighter F, who
closest thing you could say to a friend to Dee.
Yeah, and had been listening to Dee and decided Dee was right. He's going to go do something, which apparently was just run next to a river and then
and then die.
And then Red Dragon Keeper pulls out the actual relic that he has, the real weapon, which again is like a bone sword thing, and kills F right in front of Dee.
But instead of regenerating, since it's a divine weapon, he dies for real.
He's super dead. We get another flashback. They really he's effed in the B.
Press F to pay respect.
You know what game that's from?
Isn't that a Call of Duty?
It's Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see it all the time, and I played that game, and I always wonder when people post it if they know what it actually came from.
I don't remember which one, but I knew it was a Call of Duty game.
I can't remember which one. Is it Advanced Warfare? Doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
It was stupid. It was a stupid moment.
Yep.
Did not think it would live this long. For sure.
We do have a tendency not to let things die here at the Baka.
Well,
or
no,
the internet.
Yeah, the internet.
Yeah,
And again, it's not. It was used to make fun of Call of Duty that year, and then it just became something people said like all the time. And I don't think 90% of people who use it know what it is.
That's a meme for you.
Yes, that's true. That is true. Hibiki tells Dee, I know you're a fighter monster. I And I was like, okay, it's getting way too easy for people to figure out. But they had a good reason. He was there when Suzukiri said, "I know what you are." He had overheard. I was like, okay, that's. I'll give you a pass on that one. But Hibiki's like, hey, I don't want to kill you guys. I think we should work together and make a better world. And D's like, that's dumb. We're enemies. I'm out. And he flies away. By fly away, I mean he turns to dust. He can do that. He can just dust away.
And why doesn't he do that more often?
Right.
That seems very powerful.
Yes.
I hate it when shows show some sort of ability, and then when a situation arises that ability would be perfect for, they just have amnesia, and it's like, oh, how am I going to get out of this situation?
Mm-hmm.
I hate that.
You mean like when somebody's hand gets cut off and then the person standing next to them touches it with a wand and it completely grows back instantly, but they still have bandages all over their face from wounds that are healing from being pummeled a few days ago?
This feels specific.
Yeah, that one pissed me
Yeah,
off.
it happens in like episode 10 or something like that.
Oh yeah. In this
Like,
anime.
Yeah.
They literally have a resurrection person, and
I'll admit, as soon as I saw that, I was like, no, don't do that.
Yeah,
No.
I know, same here. Like, no,
Because
come on.
we should give props. This anime does kill characters.
It does.
Two.
Main characters.
Well, one.
One is an antagonist. Yeah. One was in the main cast of new side buddies. Like if it was My Hero Academia, he'd count as a main character.
Yeah.
The one they bring one back as in a coma, and then
I understood why they brought him back, because it was more about a different character's character growth. It was more about XX.
Right.
But it was still frustrating because I was like, no, he's dead. Let him be dead.
I thought I was like, man, because they were setting him up for an arc and like doing stuff with him, and then he just dies. I'm like, bold choice, and I'm that's a great one. Then they coma did. And yeah,
but I mean,
the healing wand, I was like, don't do that. That's gonna be a problem.
Yep. That, and like, but this anime, it does that with everything that is consistent. Like you were saying about the dragon weapons, there are times when they'll swing the dragon weapons and an entire car will explode. And I'm talking about when they had the same mode on, right? And then they will hit it again and 3 cars get it launched into the air and somebody's able to actually jump off of them and none of them explode. And like, it's ridiculous. Nothing is consistent. Or they'll like shoot at somebody.
Clumsy.
All of them will be standing there shooting at somebody, and then they will all throw their guns in the air behind them and run towards the person to engage in melee combat. And I'm like, that's your sword. Why'd you throw your sword in the air?
A car drives through a concrete wall at one point in this anime. I was like, I'm pretty sure they just pancaked themselves.
Yes.
Oh, okay. D goes back to Suzukiri, and they come up with a plan to infiltrate Red Dragon Keeper's base again. And this is where she's like, why doesn't all you guys just turn into humans? She's like, we have unique talents, and turning into people is my talent. Most people can't do this. So if he sees a picture,
the only other one that can is it turns into a cute girl.
But she can.
That's anime.
I guess she can turn into people. She said it's really hard for her though.
So I guess this is just the form she prefers.
Yeah. We'll get to XX. Yeah, so he changes into Sosei. It's important to note that he needs to see a picture. Like if he can look at a picture, it's easier for him to transform. Turns into Sosei, sneaks into the place to get the sword. That Chokita guy is there, and for just some reason hanging out. He gets past him, and then the guy's like, and he finds the sword in a golf bag in this archive. Apparently, just put your ancient relic in a archive. But again, it's also a note that, and he points out, there's no threat to them. they're not taking this seriously. This divine artifact doesn't have to be safeguarded. Things are just really casual for these keepers. That Takita guy is like, hey, you smell different, so I shot you in the face, and starts attacking D. And D calls out, what if I was the real one? He's like, you probably would have dodged. D has dynamite and is like, I'll blow up this whole building if you don't stop. And then he beats Takita with a golf club. I thought to death.
Yeah, I did too.
But he comes back, so not to death.
He comes back, but Pink decides not to heal him and just bandages him up instead.
I'll be honest, at the end of this episode, I was like, okay, I'm into this show because I just watched our protagonist beat a man to death with a golf club. And then what happens next? He climbs up to the roof. Red Keeper is waiting for him up there. Mm-hmm. And they have what I thought was a really cool battle. You know, him using the fact that his arm comes off, but then he can bring it back. He uses it to pull down a whole water tower.
That I didn't like.
Which he never uses that ability ever again.
Yeah, these guys are
really handy.
Exactly. These guys are super weak. If their power of regeneration is that strong, that is an entirely different way of fighting, and he should be using that constantly. All of them should.
Yeah, he could cut off his legs and propel himself through the air.
Yes. Like a certain undead guy.
God, I love Undead Unluck.
So good.
This and Undead Unluck, I wish they weren't on Disney Plus. It's nothing against Disney Plus or Hulu, whichever one you watched it on. They don't market their stuff. People need to know about Undead Unluck. It's better than Kaiju number 8. I like Kaiju number 8, but it's better. Anyway.
We also have a manga reader here, so
I like the Undead Unluck anime better than I like Kaiju number 8.
That's fair.
But I read the Kaiju number 8 and manga.
Mother's Basement put out a tweet that something just happened on Undead Unluck, and I do know what it is because I do read the manga. But no, it's not going to get the anime viewers to be excited about it when it happens in the anime because it's locked away on Disney Plus and just Disney doesn't tell people they have anime. Please, God, it doesn't matter. I'm on a tangent. Let's talk about this anime.
Speaking of telling people things, I discovered a new anime reviewer, and he's now my favorite. Scamboli Reviews. This guy is hysterical. He's very, very good. I would
review this anime because we should probably do that.
I don't know if he does.
Have you made a marketing deal to give him this free airtime?
No, right? But like, if you like Mother's Basement, you need to go listen to Scamboli. This guy's amazing. And he badmouths Mother's Basement a little bit. Not like seriously, it's joking, but he's really fun.
And when you're on the top, people take shots, right?
That's right.
That's why we make fun of them too.
That's right.
Yeah, but no, I feel like if people want to hear reviews, this podcast.
Yeah, I know, right? He does different things. It's not the same as you're gonna get here. It's not. You won't get a full synopsis the way.
Hey, Jeremy, do you think you can stop shilling for other shows? And
I want to share.
All right. Red mostly beats him, cuts off his arm, gets the sword away from him, but waits for the helicopter to show up with the camera, and then the rest of the Rangers come and they're getting ready to kill him, and they're like, wait, we just did this, plot wise. We need to do something different. Let's capture him instead. And they're like, okay, we're gonna capture you, and he's like, I don't want to be captured. I'd rather die. I'm like, okay, we'll kill you instead. So Blue Keeper stabs him in the gut with his divine artifact, and D floats away, and then he blows up like a balloon, floats away, and then explodes. And they're like, oh, D's dead, and the episode ends. And I was like, that's a cool ending. Like, I assumed he isn't, but you just killed your main character after he just beat a man to death. Red Ranger finds out his sword is missing still. It was a decoy fake that D had made. Suzukiri's an evil villain. What's going on? I'm into this story.
Mm-hmm.
This was a high point for me. Again, after episode 1, I was like, this sucks. At episode 3, I'm like, okay, this is cool. We're going to go on a roller coaster. It's going to keep going.
This attack from Blue really upset me. He stabs him with the divine artifact. He blows up like a balloon and starts floating away. This would imply that the power of the divine artifact is all throughout his body. And what does he do? He is able to get like his arm away so that when he does blow up, he could regenerate from the arm.
Nope.
No?
That's not how he survived.
Remember the dynamite?
What, he blew himself up?
He blew himself up before the divine artifact's explosion would happen.
Okay, but he's still filled with the divine artifact's power.
But
Correct.
only the hole was the actual divine artifact point that touched him. The rest, I guess, was inert.
Because he didn't take that damage yet, that damage wasn't fatal.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
He had to blow himself up himself first.
I liked it because they established he had the dynamite. It wasn't like I also happen to have dynamite. They established he had the dynamite.
No. The dynamite makes sense, but it's like he's been struck by the divine weapon and he's got its power flowing through him. Whether it is enough to then make him explode or he explodes himself, I don't know if that matters in this particular case, but okay.
I think for me, the thing that was irritating was he complains about the injury to his belly for a little while, and then it just kind of goes away.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember wondering if it's still affecting him or not, or if it did actually heal.
Mm-hmm.
XX seemed to get her arms back too.
She had to eat some of
did
the
she?
boss monsters to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, is that why they came back? Okay. I just assumed they didn't know. Then we see a monster killing rangers in the street. Just some low-level rangers die into a boss monster. He'll come back later. The Dragon Keepers all have meetings and they bring their first. They're called first juniors.
Yeah.
I hate that name. It makes it hard. But anyway, yeah, they're second in commands. I'll come with them. And this is where Red reveals, "Hey guys, I've lost my sword." And then his underling's like, "Well, then you have to resign. You messed up. You got to pay for this." He's like, "Oh yeah, that's a good point. You're probably right. Hey, eat wall." And then smashes him into a wall and beats him to death, covered in blood, and then goes back to eating his sushi with the blood literally dripping everywhere. Very Homelander-ish. Like Jeremy's right when he makes that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was already getting boys vibes, but I was like, oh yeah, you just straight up the boys without all the super gross stuff.
Yeah. And it's funny.
Shrinking down to the side. Never mind.
Oh God, yes. It's funny that like having an anime character turn another anime character's head into a pancake and then sit down to eat while covered in blood isn't gross now. Like,
well,
we never should have watched any of The Boys. What did it do to us?
Look, if you can watch Undead Unluck and all the blood that comes out of there, eventually it's just cartoon blood, right? It counts less.
I guess that's true.
And we didn't actually see the head get, concave or anything. It's all just implied he's dead.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a 90s anime.
Right. Yeah, and so we do get the scene of the other Rangers like, hey, we're gonna all have a meeting. Suzukiri, because by the way, Suzukiri, she's the first of the yellows. Did you guys want to talk about any of the other Rangers? I forgot to give you a chance. The
only one that bugged me was, and this is gonna sound really bad.
Do you have anything to compliment first? I loved Green's design.
Do a criticism sandwich or whatever it's called.
Right. Okay, so no shots at Hibiki's sister for being in a wheelchair. It's obviously a thing. But like, what battles did she complete as a cadet to then become a keeper? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be that guy, but like, if we're gonna do wheelchair girl that gets divine artifact, and now she can kick bad guy ass.
That's
like,
a good point.
What? How did she get, like, because there was obviously keepers before them?
Well, I have a feeling none of the actual keepers came up through the program.
What I'm saying is there was obviously a blue before the current blue.
Right.
So, and with how old he was, I assume there was a pink before the pink that we have now.
There had to have been a pink before the pink, because she was just a little girl.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
They defeated
how
them.
did she get through the program?
Rangers, huh?
Yeah,
well, it's well, what's weird is that it's second generations, but it's not second generation, right? For some of them, like Blue, we saw he was the one that was up there because he had the scars on his mouth.
When they beat him 5 years ago?
12 years ago.
No, the boss monsters lost 5 years ago.
No, they lost a few months after they arrived.
It was. Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Which should be 12 years ago.
There was something that was 5 years ago, though. What was that?
That was the dude that lost his brother to the boss monster they missed.
Okay.
Yep. And that's what makes it really weird with Blue's history, because Blue is shown being up there 12 years ago after they defeat the boss monsters.
With the scars.
With the scars. But then it also shows his backstory, and there's a different Blue guy, and he doesn't have scars on his mouth, and he's taking care of an orphanage where we see the young Hibiki and his friend in the orphanage.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that the boss monsters already showed up. They already destroyed his family. Havoc has already been wreaked. They've probably already been defeated, and he's not a Blue yet. But he was up there when they got defeated.
I got no proof of this. My gut feeling tells me that the timeline probably does work out better than we think it does.
Maybe.
That we're missing something here, but I don't know it.
They must not have let it go to, past the cutting floor with that kind of an error. Maybe he didn't have scars, and I'm just remembering that he did, but that would solve that one.
Usually this is the kind of thing we get a comment on of like, hey, you guys missed this thing. That's the only thing I'm getting the vibe of.
Yep.
But yeah, that's my only other complaint is like, okay, that's cool that Wheelchair Girl can become a superhero and participate in the Sunday shows. And like maybe she was also part of defeating the whatever. But like, how did she get through the ranks? How did she beat the other contenders?
I will go out on a limb and say none of the keepers came up through the ranks. That it was literally Draggy-kun was like that one.
Sure.
You could be right.
That's kind of the only thing that makes sense based on your own complaint here, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like there's some inconsistencies with the timelines, and that's one of my complaints.
Well, we see Blue not go through the ranks and literally just, hey, Draggy-kun wants you.
More like Red wants your height.
Yeah.
Little A, little B.
Yep.
All right. Man, do you think he killed old Blue just to get new Blue's height?
Uh-huh.
God, that's evil.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Blue is like, hey, I think that D survived, so I'm sending people out to search for him. D did survive, again, because of the dynamite, but Hibiki finds him instead and takes care of him in a cave. I think this is a really good scene of understanding D a little better, because he's like, I'm your enemy and I hate you and I want to kill you, but then starts like palling around with Hibiki, doing the whole, oh yeah, I can impersonate you. Oh, I can be the thing monster for a minute. I think he's a character who's very dishonest with himself, that he doesn't even realize that he's a better person than he is. So when he's like world domination, even in his head, world domination isn't enslaving the human race. It's him being rich and getting to eat fancy meals with the people he cares about. I think this is that first hint of, hey, this monster raging at the world. He doesn't even know what he means when he says what he says.
I am a little surprised that he didn't have stronger bonds with any of the other fighters that he lived with for 12 years. You know, if he was this
Yeah.
easy to become amiable with.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like someone other than F being close to him.
Yeah, and even just the degree to which F was close to him just seemed like a little bit closer. I mean, 12 years living in prison together, you would assume that they would forge better bonds.
I mean, let's to point out how clumsy this anime is. We have in a little bit. We have the character D and XX meet and be like, "Who are you? Who are you? Oh, what's your name? You're X. Oh, I'm D." And then we find out they knew each other. We literally see them have a conversation with each other, and him not go, "Oh, you're the one fighter with the long spiky hair that you have exactly now."
Exactly.
Yeah, that you're right. Yeah. All right, we get Hibiki's backstory. Kind of went over it. Parents died, saved by Blue. Sister got stuck in a wheelchair. And then he's the third ranking Blue. He shows up. This scene is really hard to describe. So just know that there's a whole lot of Hibiki like, oh, I'm going to lead you to the monster away from D, and then D being like, oh, I'm going to lead you away from Hibiki by sacrificing myself. And then a lot of battling. I did love the scene of D hiding behind a tree as it's falling and like staying with the tree. That was a good visual joke.
This is one of those scenarios where he could have so easily been like, after saying, "Oh, I broke my bonds, haha," you know, just disintegrate and relocate.
Yeah, just smoke away into the city. Yeah.
Yep.
But they don't, and eventually him and Hibiki switch places. And by Hibiki cutting off his hand and then getting burnt in the face. Because they're trying to make it look like, oh, you can just shoot his head off and shoot his hand off. And they do that by literally cutting off his appendages. So D, in Hibiki's appearance, is now taken back to White Dragon Nest. He's taken back to the city, and then he goes to White Dragon Nest, which is Hibiki's training grounds / current living situation. Hibiki's also like, hey, now it's a race for you'll try to destroy the Rangers and I'll try to fix the Rangers and we'll see which happens first. Which is weird.
How's he gonna try to fix them from out there?
I don't know. I thought that was insane, and then they had the shot of him in the final scene, and I'm like, oh, I guess he has a plan. He'll just listen to the radio in a hovel.
Exactly.
And fix the Rangers that way. Okay. Suzukiri is asked to join the Pink Rangers for something, and she's like, no, I don't want to. And then her name is
it was that meeting they were gonna have to talk about Red.
But Pink Keeper is literally like, well, that's fine. We don't want you. I don't even care about you. And she's like, well, you just wanted to hear about Hibiki. Hinting at the classic anime trope of am sexually attracted to my brother. Yay!
Yeah. I mean, I in the sub at least, it came across to me as just like incredibly protective and obsessed. But I can see there being room for that interpretation because it is the level of obsession.
I watched sub too.
Did you?
I don't even know if there was a dub.
Okay.
I watched dub.
Yeah. There was a dub.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that it was sexual.
Just the way she squirmed when she was talking about him, and then her pink bodyguard in the background being like, okay, I guess it takes all types.
That's fair. That's fair.
D wakes up. He like, what is this machine? And he breaks a laptop in half. So he takes that to the maintenance officer because he's supposed to get information on all the trainees he's going to be living with from the laptop. And then also asks him to check out a loud banging in his closet that he doesn't understand. Then he's asked to pass out ID cards because the anime needs to introduce a lot of plot characters, and this is a fast way to do it. So we get a long list of characters. Is there anyone you want to talk about?
I thought this was kind of clever but also cheap in a way.
If you gotta do it in a story way.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's a little obvious,
Yeah.
but it's gotta get done. So,
Exactly.
is there any of the cadets you guys want to talk about? Anything that stood out?
Yeah, big muscly pink-haired dude was funny. I got
Yes,
a
he
kick
was.
out of I got a kick out of how he's like, "Oh, I'm the strongest. I'm super powerful." And then the moment that he saw something he wasn't 100% confident that he could beat, he just like withered away and was like, "I'm leaving. I can't do anything. I've already lost." That was just yeah, I really liked him.
I guess I like the whole setup that comes of the elites and the losers, and then taking the loser club and their different. I mean, look, I'm a fan of the movie Little Giants, and if I gotta take it in anime form, I'll take it in anime form. McRanus is a national treasure in Canada.
Honey, I Shrunk the Rick.
All right. Yeah, so we meet all these funny characters. He also meets Hibiki's sister. Again, we're gonna find out here. How fast did you guys catch on that she was Pink Keeper before she actually transformed?
When I saw her hair.
Yeah, they're the only characters with red hair.
I did not. I mean, to be fair, she was in a wheelchair. So I was like, oh, so she must have like clerical duties or something.
Well, the fact also that she's in a ranger compound is just like, okay, well, she's the only people in there are rangers. Like even the maintenance guys are rangers. So
Nope, didn't get it at all. Anyway, yeah, so she keeps like, so she meets him in the hallway. Is like, hey, I'm gonna visit you soon. He goes to his room, and the loud banging ends up being a woman trapped in his closet, who ends up being a fighter who attacks him, and then he has to reveal that he's also a fighter. This is XX. Your guys' thoughts on XX? Jason already complained about her, but I'm sure he's got plenty more locked and ready to go.
I think she's a better version of what the protagonist is as far as her loyalties towards her programming. And also she is conflicted because obviously she's been living with a human for quite some time. She's also got some resentment towards the fighters that did not come down with her when they lost. And the horror that you see on her face when the maintenance guy gets killed, that's genuine. She's just like, well, that didn't have to happen. And then she has this internal conflict of, okay, but I'm here to kill people, but I'm also I kind of like these people, but I have a duty to do, but like I'm a monster. Like that internal conflict was cool to watch. We didn't get that with D, and I wish we would have. And yeah, actually, I have less problems with XX than I do with D.
Isn't that what we see D go through here in the next couple episodes?
Yeah, but not so starkly. He's still conflicted because he still has this like desire for revenge. I think he's wavering with his desire for world domination because he's not sure why he wants world domination. XX goes through a conflict of, well, I think it's more stark. I didn't want to see these people die, but I just saw someone die in front of my face unexpectedly. For D, he starts to go, he's still conflicted with I don't care about these people, but I do care about these people. But I hope that I can dominate them, but also like I want them to be friends. Like he's still having that struggle.
I think the biggest issue I have with her is what is she doing here? Of all places. Like, if you want to fight with the humans, why do you go and hide in the closet in the White Dragon Nest?
And I'm assuming, and this is a huge assumption, that Hibiki found her and put her in the closet to keep her safe.
So then there's a few questions that arise from that. Number one, why is she still there? Was she locked in? Why didn't she just disintegrate and dust her way out of the closet? And And also, why does she remain in the human form if the human form is difficult to be in, even when nobody's around, in a closet that's locked?
Completely fair.
I mean, that's the thing that I have. I'm looking at this character and I'm like, okay, you're here because you're cute. That's it. And you bring up more questions about Hibiki than anything else, because the moment that the door comes unlocked, she sees Hibiki and she takes a swing at him with a knife arm. Okay. Why would she do that unless she knew that he could dodge it, which means she does that Is this a thing? Is this a thing they do? Like, I don't know. I'm just wondering what their relationship is. Because then she smiles when she's like, "Did you hurt him? Is he dead? Did you kill him?" And he's like, "No, he's not dead." And then it shows us her grin. So she likes Hibiki.
Yep.
So that means that when she was swinging to attack him, she wasn't really swinging to attack him. Maybe it's because as a fighter, she knows that she's not good enough to actually land a hit, even on a pacifist. But then it bodes the question: why is she being playful like that? Right? The whole thing is just weird. It's weird. And then she goes and she saves one of the guys that's injured and potentially dead, and we find he's in a coma later, right? So she clearly doesn't want to do what her boss monster wants her to do. So maybe she's only there because the boss monster is making her stay there and she's afraid of him. She thinks he's going to hunt her down or something. But I mean, come on, just dust out and reassemble on the other side of the planet. Like, you have no reason to stay here if you don't want to fight and you don't want to die. They're too powerful. Their ability to relocate and to change shape is too powerful to justify the decisions they make.
For me, this is a low point in the story, and I think she's the most interesting thing going on. I was so bummed out when I found out this is turning into Blue Lock. Like, oh, it's a bunch of backstabbing, and you have to get past the next level to go on. And I'm like, oh no, please don't do this. And then there's a crazy killer woman in the closet. I'm like, okay, well that's something. that's a twist that wasn't in Blue Lock. I mean, you're right. The logic doesn't hold up. But again, for everything that's going on, I think it's a fun wrinkle in the story of, okay, I have to keep my cover while also keeping this psychopathic lady who's on my team officially or technically, but has very different goals from me. I like the idea behind it. Again, the concepts are strong, but yeah, clumsy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. Sister comes back. Sister leaves. Sister comes back. Lady in the closet gets mad. Lady goes back in the closet. Lady in the closet gets mad. Gets her head cut off, locked in a box. To keep her, but they also come to an agreement that she'll stay in the closet apparently, because he's like, I'm kind of on your side, and I am gonna kill these guys, but just not right now, I guess. Then we see a training program where it's pointed out the students are more focused on killing the monsters and saving civilians. But then we almost like immediately go to the test. The biggest thing is that each of these colorless cadets want to be in a different color. And there's a pair for each color. And Hibiki's in red. I'm sure it's by design.
Yeah.
Hibiki's in red along with Kai, who's like, oh, I don't work with people. I'm so scared.
Yeah.
The test is, hey, you have to go fight a monster and take its keys, and then if you have the keys after 3 days, and there's basically 3 battle rounds that are half hour long, over 3 days, and if you have the keys at the end of the 3 days, you get to go on and become an actual ranger. You know, they are rangers, they're just colors. You can become a colored ranger. The monsters they had to fight turns out to be the mostly the first ranking juniors of the different colors, except for red because that guy just was murdered. So they sent the third one. It's Tokita. He's back. A lot of fighting happens. It ends up all not mattering because the alarm goes off before it's over. I have some complaints about in the fight. One, his whole plan is like, he makes a smoke screen. He's like, I'll turn into the red and green lady, or red guy and green lady, and make them think they're attacking each other so they'll fight. But to do that, he has to make a person stop and draw them in the middle of this battle. Like, hey, who can draw? Hold on, I'm sketching from memory. Comes out perfect.
Yeah, who's going to agree to this?
And not question it.
How do you explain that why you need this done?
How did that help? Like, it's just gonna be like, oh, that worked. How?
Right.
What did my two pictures do? And also, I guess there's speed drawers, but unless she is a speed drawer, this is like at least a 5-minute project.
Oh yeah, at
They're
least two faces. Oh man.
Again, a car also comes through a cement wall at one point.
Well,
Okay.
and also again, it comes down to these guys are really fast. It's established how fast they are. How is he not being absolutely destroyed in these combats? It just doesn't make any sense.
Also, oh gosh, okay. He makes a very stringent point multiple times that he can't get hit or he's going to blow his cover.
Mm-hmm.
How does he keep getting away with not taking damage?
That's what I mean. Like, he's avoiding every hit, and the only time he gets hit is when he's in the cloud cover or when it's in front of characters that then get decommissioned somehow.
The phaser lightsabers were cool.
They were, but they didn't make sense for a training situation because they were like shooting holes through windows and vehicles. They were stabbing through vehicles and through walls.
Like one guy mentions at this range, it's going to do more than just hurt. Like, so it can do damage, but it's very weak damage.
But I mean, it was going through windows. Like, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, if it can do that, if it can punch a hole through a window at 50 feet, 30 feet even, it's going to do more than just stun you.
Anyway, nothing happens because everybody results in a tie. No one's able to get their key. But they do realize there's only one key per group. So they're they're like, hey, we'll still work together. It's fine. And there's all these hey, all the pairs are starting to argue with each other. The bodybuilder took one look at the other guy or was like, I'm not strong enough, and just goes off to go do weightlifting and never shows up the next day. Dee's like, well, this is perfect. I'm gonna betray him. And Kai's like, here's my sad backstory. My brother was murdered by a boss monster 5 years ago. You're right, that was the 5 years. And Dee's like, oh, that's so sad. I'm gonna betray you. Ha 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 ha. The next day starts, and he's talking to the Blue Junior, and she's like, oh, I was already beaten. And he's like hanging out with him, and she's like, oh, by the way, yeah, you've been betrayed. Kai's already fighting. And all the elite students, one from each pair, teamed up and are helping each other get the keys, and then the losers get nothing. So the losers team up, and they get the key from Zuzukiri, who's the yellow monster, by attacking her, and then she realizes that one of them is D and just hands over the key because, hey, why not? I want to see what D does.
Well, and she didn't even give it to D. She gave it to the other guy.
Right, who she made fun of for being such a coward. And again, I am very much fast forwarding here, so I'm probably skipping over stuff, but we gotta go.
There's also, a lot of inconsequential fighting, so
lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
However, what actually is interesting, XX had gotten out of her room and had gone and banged on some pipes. D found her, brought her back. But and then the blue maintenance worker who was fixing the laptop comes to check the cabinet, finds her in it, and is hey, I'm not going to kill you. I work in maintenance because I don't want to kill people, so I'll help you escape. And then he gets murdered because she called in Peltrola, one of the boss monsters that still exists. I'm assuming there's more than just him too.
Me too. Mhm.
So, any thoughts on this boss monster other than his power is super annoying?
I like him.
Yeah, I thought he was one of the better characters in the anime.
Yeah.
I like how delusional he is about being a
Yeah.
god, and
How he
you know,
twists everything.
I'm going to save you by slicing you in half. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, he's right up there with Red.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite story developments. Of like, oh god, this testing. And I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I've seen this 100 times. This is not My Hero Academia. Like, D's just not. Like you said, I'm not super rooting for him. So it's like, whatever. Let's go. I wanted to see him fight the keepers, and now we're doing this. This feels like such a tangent. And then suddenly you're like, oh, but also it's alien. There's a murder monster in the building just killing people and no one's aware of it. I'm like, oh, okay. That's cool.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, Izomi, who's the blue junior, comes across him and tries to fight him, tries to save another ranger cadet, and that ranger cadet head gets blown off. Izomi fights him, doesn't go well. Anyway, back at the testing, the losers, they lose the yellow key, and then the bell goes off. But then they find out they rigged the bell, and they get the yellow key back. The guy who looks like the grape head from My Hero Academia.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing.
Who was like, oh, so he's gonna be a pervert, and they ended up being a kind of a cool character.
Yep.
He gets revealed. He's just like, hey, by the way, I'm a monster.
I don't know why he would show him that.
I don't really get the tactic here. I thought he was gonna reveal it to all the losers. Like, look, guys, I'm a monster. I'll help you win. You're gonna help me win. And he just shows it to this one guy, and then the one guy's like, I trust you. You're my friend.
Right?
But he never even really spoken to him. I mean, he gave him his name. He tried to give him his name badge, and the other guy grabbed it and said, no, don't touch these or whatever. Yeah. Right? He didn't even get to give him his name badge. He's never exchanged a word with the guy, basically.
And there's not like, hey, you caught me regenerating or something. It was just, by the way, monster.
Yeah.
Anyway, after that guy basically tells D, you're a good guy. I trust you. He goes out and he happens to come across this fight with Izomi and Peltrola. And then he saves Izomi by pushing her in the elevator and takes on him and gets shot and is killed. And again, I thought that was a brave choice. And it still is. It's just, it's watered down now because of coma. So, yeah. The third day test comes up, and this time, because of that guy with the crazy grape hair, they figured out their swords have a third form where they're super swords. And batteries matter unless they don't.
Exactly.
The fact is, you could have just had the batteries not matter, except for they wanted the joke with the buff guy, because he's fighting. They do one-on-one fights. He turns his into a giant sword. She's like, "Oh, you're so buff. I wonder if you'd pose." And he starts posing, and his battery runs out. And then she's like, "Oh, I got you." And then he turns out he's so strong he doesn't actually need a weapon. Ha ha ha! Very funny joke. But then everyone else just has their on all the time, way longer than his was. And
I liked how Green did it, because Green was supposed to be the stealthy one, the smart infiltrator subterfuge character, right? And so she pretended that she was out of battery and shut hers off early and said, I still have a little bit of battery left. I thought that was really cool. But then she ignites it inside of a car and the car blows up and they're unharmed, even though the guy gets... What the hell did you do? What happened? How did you blow the car up by igniting it and then you're just unharmed but not able to stand? Like, it's just...
I don't know if you know this, but if you're in a car explosion, it's very tiring. Like,
it's very tiring. Not necessarily dangerous.
I need a nap.
She had just enough strength to put a thumbs up in the air. Yep. That was it.
Oh.
I won.
Inner ear infection. I can't stand up straight, but I won. yeah, again, more inconsequential fighting. But Blue Keeper shows up because his junior got hurt, and she told Draggy-kun, which is why I'm calling it Draggy-kun, because that's what she calls it, and I don't remember its real name. And then he just like breaks into the parking garage. By the way, this whole test has been in a parking garage this entire time. That's their
With
training
other
ground.
people's cars.
Yeah,
Like,
these cars
what?
have things in them.
This is a training center.
There's like pipes in the car. It's like it's a plumbing car or something. He goes and beats her up with pipes later.
You're right. You're absolutely right. All staged. All props.
Yeah, all props. So no one else's cars.
Look, if Kaiju number 8 can have a whole city, it's just hey, our students need a place to test and have battles on. What should we do? Like a suburban area, cliffs, ice, maybe fire, lava. What about a parking garage? Has anyone done that?
What kind of cars are going to be in the parking garage? We should probably have this many plumbing. Put me in charge of coming up with the spreadsheets for that. I would actually really enjoy that. What is the percentage of cars that would be plumbing?
It's not gonna be realistic if there's not like 3 plumbing cars parked in there. Also, make the concrete super weak so the cars could just drive right through it.
It's got to be spectacular.
Okay, we're going back to track. Blue. Okay, XX had turned into fuzzy head guy. And decided to help. Yeah, Mineta was trying to help Dee's group get all the keys, but also that's where Peltrola is now hiding after his fight. So that's why she's really helping get all the keys. Blue Keeper shows up, sees that, realizes XX is a monster, beats her up, starts torturing her, driving the pipes into her again, which she's constantly healing and re-damaging because there's pipes inside of her. And then D accidentally flips the truck. Is like, oh, I'm so sorry. I hit the van and flipped it over with my super sword with extra battery because I charged mine. Those idiots forgot to charge.
Yep.
And then he attacks Blue. And then is like, oh, I saw you hurting my friend, so I had to murder you. I'm still on your side though.
It's fine.
Blue starts attacking him and XX, but XX is like trying to stay in the other form so that Blue will believe that D. It doesn't matter though because he's still attacking D. She loses her arms to an attack, and then she's able to still drive a van into Blue, and then immediately surrenders after that.
Yep. I don't get it. It's like the combat was just there to fill time.
Yeah. The I'm gonna drive a van into you and then surrender really threw me. Like, just surrender. Why did we? What was the van?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, she takes him to Peltrola, who's now turned into a giant tree.
Or again, she could have disintegrated and disappeared at this point. Just dust away.
Blue Keeper destroys the tree, but all the fruit hatches bird clones, and all these bird clones are Peltrola as long as one survives. He's alive. Also, they have mini bird versions with each one.
Which they don't look anything like the Petrola that we've seen either.
It's getting out of control.
Okay, Blue fights all these clones, except for XX and D go off to the side to have a conversation with one, and then she's like, "Hey, this is my boss
This
monster."
was good. I actually like this.
And D's like, "Hey, nice to meet you." Attacks him immediately
And kills him.
Does it? Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, that clone.
It's hard to tell with the clones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kills him. And D's point of view is, screw you. You left us to suffer and die, and now you're just like, hey, follow me. And I want nothing to do with you. I'm here for me. I'm not here for you anymore.
Yeah.
Big character step. Yeah, you attacks him. Also, the juniors who were the test proctors realize there's the boss monster, so they're hunting him. They start fighting in the parking garage against him. And this is where like Suzukiri is like, hey, I'll help you out. I'll help you escape. And then he says, oh, you're part of that group. And we see just a shot of a dragon with like some priestesses around it, or monk priests. So yeah, what is that? And that's very tantalizing.
Yeah.
But the clone she helps escape gets killed by Pink Keeper, who's like, that's for putting me in a wheelchair. I'm not
Yeah.
helping with the rest of this.
And then she's just noping out of there. What the hell? And great job for the support keeper.
Right? It's not
Absolutely
like Blue
no
needed
support.
any assistance or anything.
Right. God.
And then breaks her phone because she can't text Hibiki.
Uh-huh.
The cadets basically realizing that I think the test is over. None of this matters. They start fighting one of the clones and realizing also they killed one of their friends. So they all team up, losers and elite, and then D shows up and joins them. There's some regular roulette, 3-card Monty going on here with their swords, because Peltrello's like, oh, supercharged swords. I'm interested in those. So they're like throwing it like hot potatoes, so he'll keep changing his aim. And then he shoots one of them who sacrifices himself, and then he captures another, and they're like, oh, we'll give them all to you. And he destroys them all. Well, right before he destroys them all, the girl who's captured flicks one up and uses it, and so it works. And then he destroys all the rest, and then they're like, "Oh, those were fakes." And I'm like, "Except the one that she happened
How
to
did she know?
luckily choose, or were only 2 fakes?" I don't know. They win. They all work together and win, except for one guy dies with a giant hole in his stomach, but he still sat up and laughed.
I know, what the hell?
Ha! You
He said-
suck. Peace out, I'm dead.
That was amazing. Oh.
And then Blue is losing, but one of his subordinates come and give him another piece of his weapon, so he gets even stronger, and he defeats the last of the clones. Except for not the last of the clones, the last of the clones. And then D's like, hey, I'm going to fight you next.
Why, D? Why?
I did skip over. We talked about enough, the fantasy that D had about what global domination is looking like.
Yeah.
Basically, this is Hibiki's, I was right, you were wrong.
Yeah. And it was interesting that he came to the conclusion that, well, that's not the kind of world domination I want. I can't kill the keepers as long as any boss monsters are around, because I can't defeat the boss monsters. So I guess now that the boss monster's gone, I'm going to kill him. Which is funny, because during the battle and after Blue is fatally wounded, I did like that he was saying, well, you're fine though, right? You can regenerate. You're not going to die from that, right? Like, for a moment there.
This is almost like D giving into, like, I've held off on this primal urge for too long. I have, because his purpose is to fight the keepers. This almost felt like he was just like scratching an itch. Like, it doesn't even matter to him that if he wins or loses. He's just, I have to do this. I have to attack this guy.
It did seem like that in the last parts of it, where he's like, yes, this is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
I am supposed to go against you, and it's supposed to be a real battle all out. You know, and he was totally okay with dying at that point, which I thought was so weird given how important it was for him to succeed.
Survived so far. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right about scratching the itch. That, yeah, I could see that.
Especially because he found out, like, I'm going to get locked away and have to do all this testing when he thought he was coming in to just start slaying. I know you have your issues. I really like this fight, though, because it's very silly, especially for a final battle. The way they're talking to each other, and you know, the Power Rangers minions were there to make the actors look really cool, and that's almost what D does. This whole fight is just make Blue Keeper look cool the entire time. And I love, you know, he uses his to look like the guy who came in. It doesn't matter. He saw Blue, and then Blue calls him out on it, like, you're using tricks. He's like, no, this is an ability that counts. Like, you have abilities. This is my one ability. You don't get to criticize what I can do. That's not cool.
Yeah.
And Blue's like, all right, well, you're a pretty good fighter, so that I'll give you that. Like, there was almost a lightness to this, and then they go for this final clash, which almost for sure D loses. And then Blue gets shot in the neck. We just watched his backstory too. And then Blue gets shot in the neck by one last clone of Peltrola. Survived, and I thought it was gonna be Suzukiri.
I did too.
But, it was Peltrola. And then XX eats Peltrola to get him out of there, apologizes, and leaves. So D's still in the Ranger Corps. Him and a couple of the ones seem to be graduating, even though feels like they're all going to graduate since they all just beat a boss monster. It'd be
Well,
weird.
and also, Blue mentions that they need bodies now. They need people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The one guy's in a coma. The Tokita is like, hey, Suzukiri, I know you're evil. I found out that you're the betrayer. And she's like, yeah, but you didn't turn me in, which means now you're an accomplice because you were trying to manipulate stuff. Also, I have a new weapon. She now has 2 relics. She has the red one and the blue one.
I think he took the red one.
I thought he just took. I thought he just took a piece from it.
I think that was the evidence that he took it.
Okay. She did say I have a new one, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He took the whole thing. Yeah. A Red murders a spy. One of the Red members of his team is
he's such an idiot.
Calls somebody, is like, hey, this stuff has happened, and so Red's like, oh, you're a spy. Murders him and then goes eats a meal.
He's so stupid. He stepped on the phone. Like,
right? Why didn't you pick it up and see who was calling?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And then we see again the last shot is Hibiki listening to the radio. Making big steps with his plan.
Yes.
All right. That is the end of season 1. It does say there's a season 2 at the end of that, but that's it for us. Yeah. So let's go to our final reviews. Jeremy, your pick, your final review first.
Yeah, I really thought I might creep upwards, but after all of this, I think I'm actually creeping downwards a little bit. I got to give it a 2. It is so riddled with inconsistencies and illogical decisions from characters, and just so many points where it would have been so easy and simple for the characters to do something different, and yet they don't. And I've heard the argument before that you got to have stupid people making stupid decisions to have, the scenarios that are often present in stories. But this really, really takes it to an extreme. I mean, if your ability is to turn into motes of dust and float away, you can get out of anything. So all of the suspense is gone. I think that they set themselves up with a very, very difficult concept to pull off. And I wish they had spent more time baking it before they put it out there, because I think it could have been really cool. The concept is great. They just did not execute it.
All right, Jason, you?
Very much agree. I was coming in at a very low score, but I also thought that, maybe our discussion would make it creep upwards. It's just, there's too much that I can't ignore as far as trying to put the puzzle pieces and make this world make sense, because they didn't give me enough information. And so, yeah, because of that, I'm just giving it a 2 as well. It's not good.
I'll go 3. I think the concepts are strong enough to carry. Unlike you guys, my thoughts didn't change throughout the review. I'm still where I was at the beginning.
Okay, fair enough.
I kind of wish they'd leave some of the super silly stuff behind. You can still be funny. The boys is funny, but you don't have to be this silly when you're trying to do some serious stuff. The concepts are strong, and I really like what they're doing. What they did with Fighter D, in my mind, is impressive for a main character. We don't see that a lot. We don't say, hey, there's a guy who's just flat out wrong and technically a villain, and we're going to carry him through his journey of corruption and horribleness to turn him into a good guy, maybe. I like what they're trying to do. A lot of clumsy storytelling here. I'm not coming back for season 2 though, so take that what you will. Maybe a 3 is too high, but I'm gonna go with 3. All right. Our next one should be a real peach. Suicide Squad Isekai. Only 10 episodes, though, so you don't have to suffer as much if you're not enjoying it. Yeah, we're going to discuss that. And kind of, I think we need to touch on some of the westernization and anime kind of mixing together and see where that takes us. If you have thoughts on Go Go Loser Ranger or any other topics that we wandered across tonight, please let us know on our Twitter at Baka Podcast, or preferably on our website, theanimebakaclub.com. You can hit that contact us button and reach out to us, or leave a comment wherever you found the podcast. YouTube reviews and likes are appreciated, but I don't really care. Do whatever you want. I'm so sick of being
I don't
tired.
care anymore.
No, I'm just tired of telling me to subscribe. I know how YouTube works, guys. If I wanted to subscribe to your channel, I will. You don't have to tell me anymore.
And if you wanted to ring the bell, you would ring the bell.
What does the bell do? I don't know. I'm kidding. Yeah. So I think that's it for us. Let's say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Sayonara.